welcome back to another Nextlander podcast. Alex Navarro, how are you?
Oh, I'm getting on.
I know you're getting on. We're all getting on. Brad Shoemaker, how are you getting on?
Getting on in years? Is that what you're saying?
In every respect, I assume.
Hey, I'm just getting along. I'm getting on. I'm just, rambling my way through life.
That's a different podcast.
I know, but I'm going to do a little bit of it here.
I got to watch cast what you say on here.
Some might say there's never been a better podcast.
We do a lot of podcasts.
Planorama.
Q&A.
Yeah.
After this, I plan to eat some lunch casts.
There you go.
There you go.
The lunch cast. That's
oh God, yes, the anti-misophonia fucking podcast where all we do is eat. We don't say anything.
Just attach the word cast to any and every word in the language.
How about my Wi-Fi seems to be downcast? I don't know.
No, downcast is taken already.
Okay,
Sorry,
upcast?
Come up with something.
That's
okay,
probably
right.
also taken. Left
Sure.
cast, right cast, center cast. It's all it's all casted.
I don't know why. We just found out as we were going to start this podcast that my Wi-Fi seems to be down within the house. That's not cool. I'm getting jammed. And you know what that could mean? A signal. What is it? What's the line? A signal block can mean only one thing.
Are you being shadow banned?
A communications breakdown can mean only one thing. Invasion.
I gotta go check my access points. Check your access points, Caravella. Check your APs. That's not going to be a fun one.
What are you running that? What are you running that controller on?
You know what I'm running that controller on.
I don't know.
The Ubiquity.
A lot of things.
That's the Ubiquity controller.
Yes.
Yeah, I gotta go see what's up. I mean, listen, the uptime on that thing has been years, so I gotta go. It's one of those ones I have to go see where I have it installed, if I have it installed somewhere currently.
Good luck, it's full of spiders.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean the software at least.
Yeah,
I need
that's
to go,
what I meant.
Yeah. I need to go see where that thing. And it's gonna ask me for a login and be like, "Hell, Chewbacca, I don't remember."
You know what? You can. I've had to do this. You can edit that database directly to replace the password if you absolutely. Desperately need to get into that thing.
Only the most secure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go check that out soon. The nice thing is most of my stuff is wired here. The only thing that's wireless are the tablets in this house. I think that's the only thing that's wireless. Even all the, let's call them IoTs. My IoT, my Internet of Things, is mostly wired. I'm trying to think if there's anything wireless. I have gone out of my way, let's say, to not have dryers and refrigerators, blenders, toothbrushes, or anything like that connect to the Wi. Everything wants to come with it, and I feel like now you have to, if you really want something without some kind of wireless transmission, Bluetooth or Wi-Fi or otherwise, you kind of have to go out of your way. I think my kid's toothbrush just came with Bluetooth, and I was like, I really don't need Bluetooth on.
What is it even connecting to and for?
It's an app.
That's weird. There was a report literally yesterday about adoption of smart appliances by consumers.
Is it down? Is it low?
Appliance makers say that 50% of customers will not connect the smart on their appliances.
They shouldn't. Listen, if it benefits you and you're okay with that, that's fine. But I think about, for me personally, this is a personal thing, so don't get up in arms. It's okay. I usually don't need what they're offering. And B, I don't need that anonymous data collected. I know it's probably anonymous, but you don't need to know how many times America opens a fridge or
it's never anonymous enough is the thing.
It's probably fine, but it's data. We're okay. It's just more stuff for the AI to sift through eventually.
It's one of the nice things about a Pi-hole. It's not even ad blocking. It blocks data collection and tracking stuff like that.
You know what?
I
wonder if my Pi-hole is down. That could be it.
You got spiders in your Pi-hole.
Could be.
Maybe my Pi-hole went down.
Possible. You know what that means? This is just an argument for running a second Pi-hole.
You don't want two Pi-holes. That's a nightmare.
Put that one in your Pi-hole.
like I do.
Put it in you have a redundant Pi-hole?
Hell yeah.
Oh, man.
Dude, you don't want single point of DNS failure? Come on.
Apparently, maybe I need a second Pi-hole. Well, I don't know what happened. Maybe my Proxmox server crapped the bed and the Pi-hole is cluttered up. That's a great point, because I do put a lot of my wireless stuff on the Pi-hole. My wired stuff I do not, because Too many game services I found sometimes get weird with some of the Pi-hole stuff. I don't feel like managing it, but on the phones, that's fine. My Internet of Things, Pi-hole. My Internet of Vinny, no Pi-hole. Pi-hole list. Anyway, if people don't know what a Pi-hole is it still just a Pi-hole, or other people like branch out?
There's other options. You
okay.
mean?
Like it's a DNS sync.
What do you mean?
Like a black hole. It's basically so you can route garbage calls.
Yeah, it just has a block list of malicious ads and data collection and tracking stuff.
Yeah.
Like, for example, if your TV is collecting your watch history and reporting it, it stops things like that from going through.
We've got a fun show today. We're going to talk about Forspoken, that SteamWorld Build demo, and some catching up on some other stuff like Subnautica's VR. There's never been a better time to go underwater in VR. Then we'll have the news and whatnot. But first, let's jump right into the games here. We've got a big, I'm
going to call this the first AAA release of 2023.
That seems fair. That seems fair and not necessarily just subjective. I'm not saying that sarcastically.
Definitely a AAA quantity of discourse taking place.
Yeah.
We're talking about, of course, Forspoken, out now on the PlayStation and PC. $70 no matter where you want to party over there.
You will give Square Enix $70 or you will fuck off.
And that's going to be your choice whether you want to fuck off or not.
But I'm not even being more cussy than the protagonist in that game. She's a very cussy protagonist.
Square Enix is all about player choice. You can fuck off or not.
Yeah. More like forswearing.
It sounds like something that would be in the game, at least.
Yeah.
Forspoken. You've probably seen it previewed, demoed,
parodied.
Maybe parodied by this point. It was
Dunked
It was in a lot of PlayStation press conferences stuff, or lead up, whatever you want to call them. Shows. Okay, the rundown is it is this woman from New York City who gets magically teleported into the kingdom of, help me out here, Aethia. She's got a charmed vambrace / bracer / cuff that
Hang on.
Uh-huh.
Do they use the term vambrace?
He would like to be called vambrace.
That's how it self-identifies.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if I've ever seen that word outside of World of Warcraft before.
It's kind of the running gag with the cuff. She calls it a cuff. The vambrace wants to be called a vambrace. What's the name of it? Does it have a name?
It does. I mean, I haven't gotten to a place where it has an actual name yet.
That the Stephen Merchant-esque sounding cuff
his non-union equivalent
is there. You probably, if you've been following the hubbub, it's probably because you have heard about the dialogue in this game. So let's just talk about that out of the gate here. I've played not as many hours as you, Alex. You played a bunch more.
I got back to where because I saw a preview of this game back in December, and they let me play through 3 chapters of it. Conspicuously, the first chapter was not one of them. And I got back to pretty close to where I was when I left off in that demo.
Okay. I'm not that far in. I battled the dragon a bunch and then ran to the next town, was put on trial, broke out of jail, and now I'm kind of running around that town.
Oh, you met the council of cool-ass costumes.
Yeah, I met the council. Okay. So, the dialogue. I don't find it annoying, but I don't like it. Like I'm not up in arms about it, but like it's.
I genuinely am a little mystified by the severity to which people are reacting to this, and I know that we live in deeply anti-cringe times. Which, sure, I get it, but
it's pretty cringe.
It's bad. Like, the stuff they showed in that initial trailer that was, like, the narrator voice of the main character, like, doing those lines, but again, and in a much more annoying advertising way. That shit was very off-putting, and I get it. But in the game, while I don't think Frey, who is the main character, is a particularly inventive or deep character, and I don't think a lot of the dialogue is particularly good, I wouldn't say that it is that much worse than a lot of other snarky video game dialogue I have seen in the recent decades.
Yeah, I think there's just a lot of snark fatigue at this point.
I get that.
My biggest complaint about the dialogue is the sniping between the Cuff, Van Brace, whatever, and Frey back and forth. At least where I'm at in the game, they just kind of keep going at it like a annoying roommates or couple in a way that you're like, I don't want to be around you. Just stop with stop with the retorts and the lines and the whole thing. That's the most annoying part.
I think it's annoying specifically because in that kind of back and forth, you really need to at least have some affection for one of the two people that are doing the sniping. Mm-hmm. And there's no real good side to take there. Like, the Van Brace is annoying in its own very generically British way. And Frey is annoying in a way that is just like generic, snarky protagonist kind of way. And, man, because the thing is, as corny as the dialogue is, and generally not very good, I don't think the game part is that bad, though it also feels maybe a little bit underbaked and generic in some ways as well.
Yeah, so the actual gameplay that I've gotten up to so far, and I've seen where it goes from the stuff you showed previously and it played through. It's to me feels a little mashy. Even in the dodging parts, feels a little mashy, like trying to time your dodges and stuff like that. But I saw you get a little more tactical and switching later on, so I'm sure I will get up to that as I get more. But you're basically
as you earn more spells and abilities. Yeah, like there are different tactics you can take in battle.
You're kind of launching magic from a distance at, I don't know, enemy. You're fighting enemies, launching magic at them, switching up spells to using the right trigger and right bumper versus offensive spells and defensive spells on the left trigger, left bumper. There's
like
that
support
kind of
spells,
support spells, yeah. And you've got some traversal magic, which the traversal in the game. You mean
your magic parkour? Please use the official branded terminology. This is magic parkour.
Your magic parkour, which doesn't feel as tight as maybe it wants to be. It feels a little clunky here and there.
In a world where Assassin's Creed games have basically gotten to the point where you can just climb on everything with like very little friction, and even like some other knockoff games have gotten pretty good about making that stuff be pretty frictionless, it's bouncy in a way that doesn't quite feel right sometimes.
Yeah, or like runs out in a way, or like you can't scale certain things that maybe you think you should, or the
way you scale them feels like it's doing the opposite of what you think it's going to do.
Yeah, and I sometimes can't tell if you're limiting me because you don't want me to climb this thing, or I'm doing the parkour wrong or incorrectly, or need to find something. The game does have points where it feels like an open world game, but is not. There are certain points where, even in the story narrative, where it's like, hey, I've got to go find this thing. And if you turn left, it'll be like, you're leaving the story, you're leaving the bounds of this world or the mission. Yeah. And it's like, I'm just exploring 2 feet over to the left.
I know.
Like, knock it off.
It feels like someone at Square Enix got a wild hair up their ass that they absolutely needed to have their version of a Western giant open world game. And I think it's doing some of the things that, the better games in that genre, it's doing some of those things like close to as well, but nothing feels like it's really hitting on all cylinders. And the open world itself, at least in the limited experience I've had with it so far, does not feel like it is a thing that I really want to spend a lot of time exploring. Like, the stuff that I've found peppering kind of the objectives around the map and stuff, none of it has been particularly compelling so far. And granted, I'm only like 4 hours into this game. It's not like I'm deep into it. But the thing is that 4 hours is achingly slow. And the first
really
2
long.
hours especially are rough.
That everything you just said is kind of the vibe I had coming away from the demo 3 months ago, 2 months ago now. Like, I thought the game looked pretty promising, and then that demo really sort of brought my expectations down to earth pretty hard.
That demo was considerably worse than what I played in that preview build, because I think not having any context for the story, the spells, anything that's going on there, just dropping into that open world and be like, I don't know, run around and shoot some stuff, is really not a compelling pitch for that game at all. And, I'm not saying that having all that stuff there makes it great, but at least you understand the context for it, and it gives you, like, some real, like there's actually some structure to it. Unstructured, that game is just run around, open environment, shoot stuff.
Yeah, and like you said, the beginning of that game, it takes a while to get moving with some. I don't know.
New York chapter, holy shit, dude!
Real slow, and it's like it is just
bad.
It's like bad. It's like real cliche stuff, just like dumped on you over and over, like troubled young adolescent. I'm not even sure how old Faye. They intentionally
say Frey is 21. When she 21? Is in court, they say she's 21.
They leave years off a bunch of documents because I was trying to place where this thing takes place, but I assume currently. So yeah, young adult that is troubled but super smart. In and out of the system because she's a mysterious orphan found in the
Holland Tunnel.
Holland Tunnel,
which is why her last name is Holland.
Frey Holland. And in and out of the court system. It's around the holidays, but she's smart, and if she could just get out, she should just get out and start again. She's been saving up money.
She wants to get out of New York and just start a new life somewhere.
She's doing bad things just so she could save up and start again, but that all takes a turn for the worse because she loses her money that she saved up and is basically left with nothing.
Has also run afoul of a gang that I will charitably describe as the gang you see in a Christian video about not doing drugs and finding Jesus. That level of fucking cliche, horrible fucking gang portrayal.
So probably there are two things in this game that just, I wouldn't say are showstoppers, but are grating for me. One is I don't want people to come away from this game and think that this is like, this character's from New York. That's why they must talk like this. That is... No, please don't. Because, the swearing and the, what does she call
the people in New York in this game talk like people on who watch Fox News think people who live in New York talk like.
Yeah.
That's what the gang people talk like.
Yeah. And the other thing are the menus. I just don't like this fisheye or the weird distortion stuff in the menus.
Yeah, it's not great. The menu design is pretty bad overall. Yeah.
So those are the two things that I've been kind of grading against.
Yeah.
And so it might not even be the dialogue. It just might be the affect that Faye has, which is Frey. Which is, there's this thing going on in the world, in the fantasy world, which is this corruption.
The break.
She calls it the break, but there's this while there where she keeps calling it oh man, this break shit, and then she's like, oh, what the fuck? Oh, the break shit. And it's just
really missed opportunity there to not call it the break stuff and have break stuff by fucking Limp Bizkit start playing.
But that kind of thing.
It's just one of those days,
Mm-hmm. And then it's the kind of dialogue, which could be funny, is another character in that world is but you have survived the break shit. And she's like, oh, no, you could just call it the break. That kind of back and forth, which could be funny given some opportunity, but it's overdone. It's just constant.
And here, the thing that is kind of bothering me about this is that there is a fairly detailed and I think potentially intriguing world that they have built with Athia and sort of what's going on there. Generic, corruption thing aside, because every fucking video game does that now. The actual world itself, the story of the four Tantas who are the four super queens that kind of run this kingdom, all that stuff, there is a nugget of something there that I think could be pretty interesting. The problem is, and I there's a very good blog post by a good friend of ours, Austin Walker.
Oh, damn it, you beat me to it because I've got it open. I wanted to mention it before we move on from this because I think his thesis is pretty sound here, but go on.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with his assessment, which is to say that the level of frivolity and dismissal that Frey kind of treats everything with, I think kind of sucks the air out of some of that stuff.
It's what he's arguing here. So he wrote this piece on clockworkworlds.com, and I think he really
I think that's his blog.
Is it?
I think that's just his blog.
Does he have a blog?
I believe he has a blog. He has not used it in a while.
Oh, you're totally right.
Yeah.
Click outside the article to realize this wasn't somebody else's site. Anyway. Yeah. The basic argument he's making is that this kind of irreverence undermines the setting itself, the work, the fiction, the drama, everything that the story is trying to do is the rug is pulled out from under it by the fact that the characters themselves taking part in the story don't seem to take it that seriously. the quotes, there are two short quotes here that really stood out for me. Like, he compares some of the writing in Forspoken to some stuff from the most recent Spider-Man movie, and basically says, like, he says the reason these lines miss for me is they feel ashamed of the world that the lines are being spoken in.
Yes.
And then later on, he says it's not so much that the writing is cringe, it's that Frey herself is cringing, and by proxy, there's a sense that the writers are doing the same.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of what it is, you know? It's like, if the participants in the story are kind of have a lack of seriousness about what's going on, then it's like, it kind of can make it hard to get invested yourself.
Yeah.
You know? Like, sincerity. It's time for sincerity to make a comeback. I don't know.
It's not that I think it needs to be like achingly sincere either. I think a little bit of irreverence goes a long way, especially these days. And it's overbearing, and it just doesn't feel like she's a person. She feels like a quit machine.
Yeah, and like it kind of goes to, I mean, it kind of just goes to the current style of that sort of writing, which for a decade or more now has always felt like it's in dialogue, like the characters and the dialogue are in dialogue with the viewer, not with the other characters in the scene.
Yeah, it's like, you know, some like duck amuck shit where like you can literally feel the screenwriter talking to you.
Right, like it feels like the jokes are all winking and nodding at you, the viewer, whereas like, I don't know, I mean, you compare like the humor in like the original Star Wars or something, like it's like when Han Solo does something funny, it's just because that's part of the kind of scoundrel that he is, you know. It's not like here is this kind of like, we're not walking right up to the fourth wall and tapping on it by making these jokes. These are just how these characters relate to each other. And I mean, that's maybe kind of a ham-handed example. It's just the first one that came to mind.
But you know what? It's not a bad example to draw, because in that there's also that line from one of the recent Star Wars movies. I don't remember which one. But it's like
now?
The fly now. They fly now.
Like, I was just thinking of that with this stuff. It's this very
is
much
they fly now. The game.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like kind of you want everything that is being said and done by characters to holistically roll up into building world and drama and stuff. Right. Like like this sort of stuff just takes you out of it sometimes.
And I'm like, I very much agree with at least half of that statement from Austin, which is, you know, sucking the wind out of the universe, like building the universe. Like the stakes aren't there. When you're just undermining everything, the stakes don't feel there. I do think some of the writing is actually kind of, you know, and not just the reaction to it. But it does suck all of the air out. And I just kept waiting for Frey to have a moment of, I need to take this seriously. Like the stakes have, I'm in trouble here.
I do think to some degree that moment will probably come along eventually, because everything about her hero's journey so far seems like it is geared toward eventually her breaking those walls down finally and coming to some sort of grips with like, hey, I actually have to help these people and do this thing, and it's not just about me being a sarcastic dick about everything. But also, it's so telegraphed, and just about like I obviously I'm a long way from finishing this game, but I am like 90% sure I know the exact not only just what the twists are going to be in this story, but also when they will be revealed, because so far every bit of setup feels like I can just see the dominoes in the background and just getting bigger and bigger in the background, and I'm just like, I've already flicked it and I can just see them starting to tumble. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, I want to keep going with it. I want to get deeper into the combat and learn more stuff. I also want to see more of the setup. I do agree with you, Alex. I think there is like a lore Bible that is interesting for this. Having Frey be the conduit by which you absorb the lore is frustrating. Like Frey doesn't seem like somebody that I'd like to hang out with. Like she just does not seem like someone.
I want to hang out with her cat more than I want to hang out with her.
Yes, hang out with the cat.
Shout out to Homer.
Or the person who broke me out of jail. She seems all right.
That judge lady seems nice. Oh, I can hang out with her.
Or the judge. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's I'm trying to think of recent stuff that had similar problems. Like Aloy was very chatty Aloy, but not snark.
No, she doesn't have a snarky bone in her body.
Just extremely bought into everything that's going on.
It's, if anything, it's almost too earnest at times.
I think you could probably point to something like the Guardians of the Galaxy, but at the same time, that is a universe that is entirely propelled by that kind of shit. Like it is the goofy thing in the Marvel, or one of the goofy things in the Marvel universe. So it didn't really feel out of place there. And
also in the game, there's also enough heart there where I think everybody knows when to pull it together, right? Like there's joking, but you know when to be quiet and just, it's time for combat. I might turn I haven't yet, but there is a slider for banter between the Van Brace and Frey.
I don't think the default is that bad. Like, it's definitely not constant, but I've also noticed that the game has a bad habit of interrupting you when you are about to go into some sort of, like, small dialogue, and if you walk into the cutscene bubble, it will just cut that off immediately.
It's more the thing where, like, if you ping the world, there's a scanning mechanic to ping. If you ping the world, the Van Brace will constantly be like, what's over there? Or Frey will be like, I should go hunt over here. And it's like, I don't need that all the time. Because I'm pinging constantly. You know? Hopefully there's an upgrade that makes the stuff on the map last longer. So yeah, I don't know. The combat I don't have too much to say about because I'm not that deep into it. The setup for this game, again, is pretty long. Like It's too long. It's too long, probably too long. And most of my time was in the setup and not in the world. So we'll see. I'm going to put more hours into it. I assume the game's out, so I'm assuming it's reviewing. How's it reviewing out there in the world?
Kind of middling.
Okay.
It's 68 average when I checked last, but there may be more reviews.
That's kind of what that game feels like to me. Yeah. Like, it is a very okay game that has some significant hindrances.
Yeah, maybe the characters come around and I'll love them. Character progression is a real thing. So
I do like the healer lady you meet in Athia, like the one who breaks you out of jail. Like she feels like a real character.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think, again, just going back again to the thing you said, the world seems like it could be interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Forspoken, out now, PlayStation 5, PC. Is this coming other places? Do we know?
I don't think there is an Xbox announcement.
Nothing announced, I don't think.
Oh, actually, right, there was that weird situation. It does have a store page on Xbox.com, but it's only for the Windows Store PC version.
Oh, right, we mentioned this at some point, yeah.
Right, so it is weirdly available for purchase on Xbox.com, but just not for the Xbox as yet.
Gotcha.
Maybe that'll get announced.
I don't know. It's got it's got your three modes. I wish of graphic modes in it. It's got performance. It has ray tracing exclusively as a mode, and then it has quality. Yeah. I do wish more games, please, just go into exactly what you're turning on and off, and because the descriptions there, it's just they aren't detailed enough to say like, hey, what it tries to say, hey, we'll try and get 4K and this out of this. We'll try and do this. We'll try and get performance, but I've been on ray tracing. It's nice you can change them in engine, so you don't have to like quit out or anything. I've been mostly playing on ray tracing. I might just go over to quality.
I have been too.
Yeah, I might switch over to quality at some point to see what the difference is. I toggled back and forth at some point in the castle, and like aside from the shadows getting softer, I didn't see too much difference.
It kind of feels like maybe some of the character textures maybe get a little bit less detailed when the ray tracing is on. Like maybe they're trying to scale some other things back to get the ray tracing running. I don't know.
Yeah, I saw some people saying that it drops to like 720p at times to maintain frame rate. Like it seems like, and the PC, the system requirements for the PC version have been a topic of discussion, let's say. As we mentioned last week, like it seems like it might just be a little rough technically.
Yeah.
I'm playing on the PlayStation 5 so far. It seems to run okay. Like
I have not run into any technical issues to speak of on the PS5 version.
Yeah. All right, that's Forspoken. Let's take a quick break here. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about SteamWorld Build and the demo they released just recently. Stick around. All right, we are back, and here's a happy little surprise. The SteamWorld folks had said they are coming out with something. I remember them saying, we're working on a bunch of stuff, and in true SteamWorld fashion, the next game they have come out with is a new genre. Well, not for SteamWorld, not for the world.
No, they didn't invent a genre.
Which is like a kind of SimCity-like
city builder. Yeah, I mean, it's called SteamWorld Build. I guess that says everything.
Yeah, they could have gone a survival game or a building game, and they went with the building game. But it is very much. So I played through the whole demo. Brad, you played some of it too, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty Sim City like in terms of the city building.
Feels
Go
extremely just like drag a road.
Yeah.
To lay down the road in the shape you want, kind of stuff. Connect these buildings up so that they can function properly.
Make sure they're in range of the utilities and the things you need.
Yeah.
So it's essentially it's in the SteamWorld universe. The setup is you've got this kind of AI core in the back of this caravan wagon that is leading you off, trying to lead you to the means to get off planet. You've got misgivings about the AI core?
Dude, that thing seems just like it's screaming like I am secretly an eldritch god that is manipulating these hapless, well-meaning robots for my own nefarious ends.
So how much of the other SteamWorld games have you completed or finished out?
I finished Dig and Dig 2. I've played all of... I did not play a ton of the card battling RPG.
SteamWorld
I can't believe them.
SteamWorld Adventures, Journey?
It's not just SteamWorld Quest, right? Quest. I think that's the only one I didn't really play, but I played a bunch of Heist.
So I couldn't remember where the cores fit in, but they are in at least SteamWorld Dig 2. I know that.
Yeah, it's been a while. I forgot about that. Yeah, maybe there's more of a direct tie-in there than I thought.
So, malevolence aside, it definitely has a voice like, I will just do what I say, the characterization of it. But there is old buried tech under the ground, and the world of SteamWorld seems to be in some kind of situation where there are rumblings or it's breaking apart, and they want to go off-world. The core is leading them to ancient tech, which can help them get off-world.
Ooh.
The daughter of the caravan, let's just call it the caravan leader, because I don't know what the actual status is, can hear the old world signal. And so the daughter in this game can kind of commune with the old tech and basically be, I don't know, some kind of muse or what would you call it? Some kind of prophet of the tech. It can kind of be the voice of the tech. And that's kind of the setup. And so you start off in this town that just has a old broken down railroad. This is the demo, by the way. I assume when I hit the end of a thing, it was like, the demo's over. Go and wishlist the game. But old broken down railway, and you have control over how this surface town is going to go. So you put down residences to build up your workers. You put down what they need, water. They're robots, but they need cactus water. And you put down these other things. You have to connect everything via roads, dirt roads, or later on I got asphalt roads. There are neat systems actually in place for the building. Seems very good. Their mechanics for the building seem well tuned for placement and stuff. There are mechanics for basically say the cactus water, their water supply, needs to reach a certain amount of buildings, and they can very nicely visualize and show as you're placing things where it's going to reach and what the extent of that is. There is this whole other game though, which takes place underground, where you are mining, and so once you go underground, you could then switch from the surface to underground whenever you want, and you have this kind of second layer of the game, which is mine underground while keeping the mine from collapsing by putting supports in place as you dig more and more and more. And you are building a similar world under the ground that has now miners, prospectors, engineers, and all this other stuff underground. It's neat. I really like it. It's got a trading mechanic as well, but
did you see any combat in the demo? Because there's some in the trailer. It almost looked like tower defense-ish, or wave-based. Like, oh, there are monsters encroaching. You have to defend.
So basically, the demo ends. There's spoilers, but this is the demo. I found the old tech once. So if you're playing the demo, heads up, this is where it ends. Once you find the old tech and go to mine it and get it out of there, it says like, uh-oh, it's making a bunch of noise. That's going to call in a bunch of people, or it's going to cause problems. Something's going to happen. It's making a bunch of noise, much like you would in one of those extraction games. Like as soon as you get the thing, something's going to come in, and that's when the demo ends. It's like, thanks for playing the game. So I did not get to any combat or have the ability to build anything combat focused.
I wonder if that's going to cross the boundary back into your above ground town.
I don't know.
Eventually you'll have to defend both simultaneously or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the demo, it probably took me a couple of hours to kind of get through, and that's with me reshuffling around the town once I realized they have a very nice and liberal relocate mechanic for buildings, which lets you, after you've placed anything, you could just pick it up and move it, which I really appreciate because there's a lot of proximity involved in building.
Yeah, and some of it was a little fiddly, I found, about like connect the rail station to all the residentials with this road, and I'm like, oh, I thought I did that. They appear to all be encircled, but it's not going. So like, yeah, they immediately are just like, I'll just pick the buildings up, put them wherever.
Yeah, which I really appreciate. You don't have to tear them down. It's not like you get some percentage of cost. You can just slide them around and move them around till you visually can see what's happening. I'm super excited about this. It plays very nicely. I like the lore of SteamWorld to the extent I remember it.
Such as I mean, they're very loosely connected. You know, it's kind of more of a shared universe. Really, it's just like each game just kind of exists. You know, like Heist is in space, kind of disconnected from. And the Quest is like pretty fantasy themed. It's almost more of a look and feel thing, which is kind of cool. Mm-hmm. This seems to be a new developer. First of all, like what this company is constantly seemingly in flux and hard to keep track of. Like Image and Form was the studio that created SteamWorld, but then they merged with another studio and became Thunderful.
Yes.
And so and they have like 5 studios under that umbrella now, and so this is, I guess, a new one that they just acquired recently that's doing this game. So it's a new developer here, but isn't there another SteamWorld game in development?
I can't remember if was this the one, or you think something announced?
They announced a different one. I'm not insane, am I? Don't answer that. There's got to be. Talk amongst yourselves. I swear they put out a trailer of it was like some kind of Wild West like dueling. There's something was going on where there was like a shootout. Anybody help me out here?
There's been a lot of like Western games, and my memory's terrible. And I knew they had announced stuff, but I thought this was the announcement of the thing they were leading.
If you told me there was something called Steam Westworld coming, I would believe you.
I don't know. I hope so. They seem to put out stuff I like. So
maybe that was just like a tone piece trailer that was not a specific game.
I'm digging it, and it's supposed to come out relatively soon. I
don't think did they put a date on it? I couldn't find any kind of time frame.
No, I thought it had like early 2023 or something.
Yeah, I think it's this year sometime. It's cool that they keep making those games. Like on the one hand, it's very cool that every time they make a SteamWorld game, by and large, it's a totally different game. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, I think SteamWorld Dig 2 might low-key be one of the best games ever made. Like that game is so goddamn well designed and put together and just incredibly satisfying throughout. Maybe they should make one sequel per game.
Sure, or
because boy did they nail it on that one.
Yeah, it's very good. If you haven't played SteamWorld Dig or SteamWorld Dig 2, I'd definitely recommend checking those out. Yeah, that's the demo for SteamWorld Build. Good enough where I just made it through the entire demo and was like, man, that's a bummer. It's over. So again, if you find the ancient tech, know that your demo will end when you go to mine it.
No ancient tech for you.
No, you can keep it going, I guess, if you didn't want to do that. All right, switching gears here. Brad, tell me about the Subnautica VR.
All right, so they made one of those survival games, except it's underwater. Can you believe this?
Wait,
it's crazy.
Subnautica, got it.
Why did it take so long?
Yeah, Subnautica 2018's greatest hits.
I think it's way older than that.
Well, I think that's that was the 1.0.
Oh god, that was an early access game, wasn't it?
Oh my gosh,
yeah, for a while.
It was like poster child for early access for a while.
As I mentioned on the Below Zero stream we did, I have had it installed in Steam since 2015, apparently.
Nice.
And just booted it finally for the first time after you streamed Below Zero. Except I did it in virtual reality.
How is it? How's it work out?
It's rad.
Okay.
It's kind of probably the coolest thing I've played in VR.
Yeah.
Okay.
Out of the box, it is unplayable. It is like so goddamn buggy. The out of the box, like I Googled about it. I was just like, I can't play this. Like when I booted into it, the main menu was about 15 feet below me. I was like peering down, and like the mouse cursor is invisible.
And you're
like
on Rift, right?
No, I've got a Windows Mixed Reality headset.
Oh,
it's SteamVR though. SteamVR is the middleware making it go.
Okay.
But like the recenter button didn't work. Like there's a bunch of animations missing. It's like you kept losing my gamepad inputs. It's like basically unplayable. And then I Googled, I was just like, how are people playing this? And I found a bunch of articles going like, yeah, the shipping version of the VR support is basically not functional. You need mods. And so there is a mod called VR Enhancements that's easy to find on Nexus Mods that 100% fixes all of that, just makes it feel like what it should have been out of the box.
That's weird. That's a weird one that they haven't just gone back and implemented that.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I don't do a lot of mods, and it was definitely an eye-opening experience of one of those situations of like, wow, it really took mods to make this thing playable. That's, huh.
But once they were in, you were enjoying it?
It's pretty great. I mean, Subnautica is great, but dude, like being in there underwater is a trip.
And it ran
like,
fine?
Yeah, it gets a little hitchy in spots.
Okay. Which
is never what you want in VR, but it's like it's not bad enough that I can't tolerate it here and there.
Okay.
The weird thing is there's no touch controllers of any kind, no motion controls. It's just keyboard and mouse or gamepad. Also, there's no incremental turning. It's only smooth turning. So like they didn't even do the basic kind of ergonomic motion sickness work that most VR games do. But like I don't understand what it is because I have terrible motion sickness problems with like first person shooters on land in VR.
Yeah.
Zero problems underwater. I have no idea why.
The human brain is a weird thing, man.
Like seriously just swimming all over the place, like practically doing cartwheels under there, like turning all over the place. It's like nothing. I played it for like 2 hours straight last night and nothing.
Oh, nice.
It was bizarre. I don't brains the inner ear is a strange place.
Were you able to get on land or do anything where you would have been on land with a horizon to see if it
I must not be that far yet. The only thing I can stand on is still that drop pod.
I'm curious if you get on land or build a base or something, if you wind up having that problem. Like if you or like once you see a horizon line or something, you're like, oh boy.
We will see. I also wondered if there was going to be some weird mental thing about like breathing underwater, because like you stay under there for a while. Yeah. Like, am I going to forget to breathe?
Yeah.
Like, is my brain going to do weird stuff about like not getting to the surface in time? But like, nah, totally not a thing. I'm taking it very slow because like it's so wild just being right up in the middle of all that underwater stuff.
I wonder if it's easier to collect like the little rock or see all the little thingies you have to collect, like the rocks and stuff.
I kind of think it's harder, honestly, because like, the viewport is pretty constrained in VR, so it's kind of like you're looking through a diving helmet all the time. Mm-hmm. Like, I think this game would be quite a bit easier to play just
on a computer.
Regular. Actually, that was another thing about the VR mode. The UI was so far to the edges of the headset that I couldn't read any of the UI display, so I couldn't see how much oxygen or hunger I had and stuff. Like
that's kind of important information.
The VR mod lets you move the UI elements around and stuff like that. Like, it's rough.
These are important things.
It was an add-on. Like, I think they very much were just like, hey, here's this if you want to mess with it. It's not necessarily like a selling point. But yeah, like I'm at least at the point where I've got the second level air tank and I've got the little bladders that let you go flying to the surface.
Oh, okay. The emergency.
So I'm like way down in the deep caves.
Oh, okay.
I think I must have missed cave sulfur at some point because it really feels like I should have found cave sulfur before now because I'm pretty far afield of the starting location and I still haven't seen it.
Oh gosh, I want to say cave sulfur is in those. Is it in those nests where the fish come out and explode on you?
I found those and I haven't. Is it in that nest after they explode?
Gosh, I don't know. Vaguely remember that, but I could be wrong.
I'll have to. I've avoided Googling anything about the progression because it's. The voyage of discovery is kind of just so all-encompassing that I don't want, I just want to keep like drifting along and taking it as it comes. It's pretty awesome.
Subnautica is neat. Like,
yeah.
I remember my first journey hitting plateaus and being like kind of like the sulfur thing of like, I'm just that coupled with you have to you only have limited amount of time to search, right? Because your oxygen that wore on me a bit, but then once I got the vehicle, like I think it's the sea moth or something, where oxygen becomes less of an issue and you're just worrying about battery power and stuff. Things picked up a lot more.
There's some weird ergonomic stuff in there with the headset where like getting those inflatable bladders that just shoot you to the surface were great. It was great because the only way to look and determine your direction is with your head and your neck. You can't use the sticks or whatever.
Yeah.
So like to surface as fast as possible, I would have to crane my neck all the way back at 90 degrees.
Oh boy.
To look straight up.
Oh boy.
And then I realized there are shoulder buttons that'll actually do that for you as well.
Okay, good.
But for a while there, it was like, this is not. This is not the most comfortable way to do this stuff. Like it's a little, it's a little weird.
The resurgence, the resurfacing of Subnautica.
Yeah, I don't know. This is a very weird swerve.
I like it.
2023 to take for me.
I like it.
To be playing a years old VR survival game all of a sudden, but
add multiplayer in the next Subnautica.
Yeah, that seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, people have wanted it. It's add it. We're just getting ready. We're preparing. You and I are preparing for the multiplayer for Subnautica by getting in there.
I mean, there's like scuttlebutt out there about a Subnautica 3. There's nothing concrete. Who knows if it'll even be called Subnautica? But looking at kind of things they've said, like the perception is that multiplayer is probably coming in whatever they're doing next, without coming out and saying, "Hey, Subnautica 3 will have multiplayer."
I would have to assume.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting up that tech tree some more.
Subnautica 3 multiplayer, PlayStation VR 2. PlayStation VR 2. All right. I'm looking forward to you getting up that tech tree too. I want you to get the submarine, the full submarine, the walking around inside submarine.
Like the breath limit is a really limiting pain point for a survival game, right? It's
my gosh. Yes.
Like to only be able to go down and look for the stuff you need for 30 seconds at a time before you have to get the hell out.
Yeah.
So like those are some real serious obstacles that feel really good to overcome as you can breathe longer and then you like get the rebreather. And then, like getting to stay down there longer feels extremely liberating.
Like just the multiplayer is just fun on like base building side of things. Yeah. Everything just goes faster.
And like probably goes without saying, some of that shit looks very cool in VR. Like
I bet.
Like having like a sunrise, like kind of swimming towards the surface with the sunrise streaming through the surface of the water. For a game that old, it looks pretty damn good.
I can't wait until you get to the pitch dark parts in those caves. That seems like terrifying.
Even the not totally pitch black but pretty dark caves that I've been in so far, like there was a point where I got to like past 200 meters, which is the second threshold for oxygen efficiency, and the computer voice comes in. It's just like, a common affliction for cave divers is a loss of orientation leading to asphyxiation. It's like, oh, thanks, cool. I'm going to get lost in this cave and drown. That's a cool
just rip the headset off.
It's a great mental image to entertain while I'm in the middle of this thing. Good.
Subnautica, specifically Subnautica's VR. You can catch it actually on the Steam sale. They had like a sale that was like the Steam had like a building sale or something like for building games, and I didn't realize Subnautica was in there. It was pretty cheap.
Actually, the last thing I'll say real quick, like I have to give it up for Unknown Worlds. Like VR issues aside, they are still updating that first game. Like they put out a big 2.0 update in December for the first game, where they're rolling a bunch of like quality of life stuff from Below Zero and like base parts from Below Zero and stuff back into the first game. Like that's a pretty impressive level of support.
That made me want to go back into the original one. The reason I wanted to jump into Below Zero was because of those quality of life things. But if they are rolling them back in, that's cool. All right, Subnautica. Quickly here, just to kind of wrap things up. I'll mention, I don't think I mentioned this last time, but I finished Signalis. I think I was pretty close to finishing Signalis last time.
Yeah, I think you were right at the tail end.
I wasn't, apparently.
Okay.
Yes, I have finished Signalis. As far as I can tell, I've gotten one of the endings. I am done. I looked up the rest of them. I enjoyed that game quite a bit. I think it is not one of my... If I had finished it in 2022, would it have made my top 10 list? I'm not sure it would, but I think it's a pretty cool game. I think it's neat and worth going through. Inventory limits aside, it did become a pain in the butt. I reloaded a couple of times too when I realized I don't know if this happens in survival games to you guys, but if you realize you have been wasting ammo at a part or wasting resources and you're like, oh crap, that's what you want me to do? Or, oh, this is just a time thing. I just need to survive long enough. I will just reload and be like, I wasted 52 shotgun shells here.
I am an obsessive save scumming is not quite the right word, but definitely
seems cheap sometimes.
Definitely playing through something like Callisto Protocol, there were multiple situations. Anytime there's like resource scarcity and I take a fight badly, I'm like, you know what, I could do that better. And if I can checkpoint it and try it again and come out of it with more resources.
Even more than taking it badly, which is, again, a thing I would do too, but a thing that you realized was a timed event instead of a threshold event for something, which is like, oh, I didn't need to get this thing down. I just needed to wait 30 seconds.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like you might make different choices about how much ammo to burn there and stuff like that.
It's like silly. Anyway, I like that game, Signalis. I think it might still be on Game Pass. If not, $20 across everything else. I really like the look of it and the vibes in it. It's a weird kind of heady game for what it is. And then the Vampire Survivors.
Oh, yeah.
I saw credits on that game. I don't know what that means.
Doesn't mean anything. You've got a long way to go, my friend.
Are you sure? I don't know what else. I saw credits. I think I might have beaten it. I'm good. Nope. I got everything there is.
Have you beaten death?
Yes.
Have you killed death?
Yes.
You did?
I did. You
killed death?
I think so. I have death as a playable character.
Okay, then you killed death.
I beat death, and I beat the angel thing that wanted to kill me, and I beat a thing. I went into some mirror world, and this thing was chasing me around in a stage that made me want to vomit if I looked at the background too long. And I beat that thing, and I got the credits there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I've beaten a lot.
Sounds like you've made some significant progress.
I got the thing where you upgrade the clock lance and upgrade the cloak, and you basically become invincible.
Yes,
that is
the dark secret of that game.
I've also unlocked endless mode, and that is helping me get all those get over 30 seconds in this level and stuff like that. So. I think there's a couple of question marks I still have on there, but I think I don't know. I might have gotten what I need to get out of Vampire Survivors. I'm not sure I need to do it with every character.
I do.
I don't know. I haven't gotten all those rune cards, but I might.
I bet you still have a lot of characters you haven't unlocked too.
I bet I do. There's
a lot of characters, dude.
Yeah, there's a lot of characters. Fun game. Game. Very silly. Very, very silly. If I had beaten that, I don't know if it would have cracked my top 10 either, but it's hard to say. And now I'm just doing revisionist
You're a lying
history.
Liar who lies.
It might be me just lying.
It's the greatest game ever made. That's why it was number 3 on my list.
It's a pretty great game. It's also extremely goofy, which it's like extremely
gleefully so.
Ridiculously goofy. The amount of casino stuff in there and it's just
casino ridiculous. Stuff that does not actually want more of your real money.
All right, I'm just going to read this email then, because just in case we don't have time for emails at the end of the show, but some Norm from New York wrote in about this game.
Okay, what did Norm say?
The developer was, in fact, previously a programmer in the gambling industry and has specifically said that, quote, the sensory barrage of colors and sounds was intended to be reminiscent of a casino.
It is absolutely, but it's taken to such an extreme that it's bananas.
Yeah.
All right, that's Vampire Survivors. That's going to wrap up our game section for today. We talked about Forspoken. We talked about SteamWorld Build's demo that's out, Signalis, Subnautica VR, Vampire Survivors. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about some news before we wrap this thing up. See you in a bit. And we are back, and time for the news. Now, last week we talked a little bit about the layoffs. You don't need us to tell you about it. There are layoffs happening throughout the tech industry, throughout, let's just say, the industry.
Let's also just say games media in particular. Boy, not a good time. Not a good time.
Not a good time.
Well, that goes for everything. Yeah,
I know. I'm just saying, it's just seeing so many of our peers and colleagues getting put out of work really fucking it just digs the knife a little deeper.
We certainly know people in our field who are affected, but it's kind of...
it's everywhere.
Every field is really being it's kind of a bloodbath across the board.
So it comes as no surprise. We have some follow-up news on some of these things. Brad Shoemaker, you've gone and put this report about 343 in here. Microsoft's 343s, 343s,
yes.
343. What's going on at 343?
Yes, the Microsoft layoffs happened last week, and it was reported at the time by Bloomberg that those cuts would affect multiple development studios inside of Microsoft, including 343. A French language leaker, I should say, by the name of Bathrobe Spartan. What the fuck is video game news these days?
It's a good question.
A leaker named Bathrobe Spartan started this, which was picked up by various news sites. Unconfirmed leaks, but this person has leaked other accurate information in the past. Basically cast doubt on the future of the Halo franchise under 343. Basically saying that they lost quite a bit of staff. There's been a lot of leadership turmoil there in the last months or year anyway, with Bonnie Ross was longtime head of that studio and left, and there's been other teams, multiplayer team, et cetera, that have had management turnover as well at that studio. But this leaker basically is saying story-based DLC for Infinite has been shelved in the wake of these cuts, and that kind of the big claim is that they will not be making full-size Halo games out of 343 anymore, that they will be farming development out to other studios to make smaller games on more limited budgets, and et cetera, is the claim being made here.
And so that's, and then they came back and said, 343 came back and said, well, not necessarily.
Yeah, kind of. There's a statement. I mean, clearly these reports made enough waves that they took to the @Halo account on Twitter to address them in a fairly roundabout way by saying, Halo and Master Chief are here to stay.
Mm-hmm.
343 Industries will continue to develop Halo now and in the future, including Epic Stories, multiplayer, and more of what makes Halo great. That's Pierre Hense, the head of the studio. So who knows? I mean, they've kind of denied it. That isn't a total denial, though.
No,
because they work with partner studios all the time and have for years.
Right.
So kind of the phrasing of that statement certainly would allow for that capacity of development to be ongoing. It sounds like they do intend to support the multiplayer component pretty robustly, because that's obviously where the ongoing revenue potential is primarily.
It's where the people are, basically.
Right. And it is where they can sell things consistently, Story DLC is just kind of a one and done.
Right.
Who knows? Primarily, it's a rough situation for the developers on the ground there trying to navigate this stuff, I'm sure. But as far as what it means for, Microsoft's first-party output generally is increasingly a topic of discussion, or lack thereof.
Yeah.
So if they are scaling down Halo development, then that's even less of an output on the first-party fronts. But time will tell, I suppose, because I'm guessing that's all we're going to hear about this for some time.
And not to beat a very long dead horse, couch co-op is just never coming back, right? That's just...
I think, did they officially cancel it?
I think they did officially cancel it.
Yeah, I lost track of, because of the kind of staggered release of like Forge and campaign co-op and everything getting moved around so much. I couldn't remember if they said couch co-op was getting pushed to later or just not happening.
It is just not happening.
I think last thing was like, we're no longer working on it.
Yes,
right?
That's right.
Did you guys finish Halo Infinite? I did not.
I did not.
I did not.
I had that weird situation where they sent that time-limited review build that I got 8 or 10 hours into, and then tried to start over on the retail version and kind of burned out trying to get back up to that point again.
It just wasn't that compelling of a campaign to me. Like, there was some good combat in there, but like just the way it was structured and the way it was built out just did not hit for me very well.
I did enjoy the multiplayer I played with you guys at the time. I didn't stick with it, but I rarely stick with too much multiplayer stuff, especially if it's Xbox exclusive, because my family that I play with is on the PlayStation. So, a lot of the stuff, if we were on the Xbox, we probably would have jumped in there because it was on, I assume they would have Game Pass, and I assume we would have just gone and played some Halo multiplayer. But
Right.
such is the world. Yeah.
I guess might as well mention they've got that developer direct today, which for scheduling reasons we had to record this before that happens, but sounds like we might get release dates for a couple of first party games out of that thing. There's also a rumor that Tango Gameworks is going to announce a new game there.
Oh, really?
Oh, interesting.
I thought they put out the thing that said basically we're just going to talk about these 4 things.
Yeah, they did.
I mean, I could see them dropping one surprise thing if they had it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, they very much were just like, hey, we're going to talk about Minecraft Legends and Forza.
Yeah. Redguard?
Redfall. And I forget what the 4th game is, but
The Forza one is interesting to me because they've been radio silent on that thing for a good long while.
Yeah, I mean, we're so far beyond what the normal release cadence would be for Forza at this point that
there have been 2 Horizon games since the last one.
Yeah, and I mean, they've been rebuilding their tech supposedly like from the ground up practically. If anything, Forza probably needed some time off to address technical debt or whatever is necessary after pumping games out for that long. Anyway, the name floating around for the Tango game is Hi-Fi Rush.
Sounds fun.
And that's kind of it. There's basically no details about what that might be, but that's the word.
Okay.
That might not exist, as with half of the news these days. That may or may not be a real thing.
By the time people listen to this, they will know. They will know more than... Is the thing we keep forgetting Elder Scrolls Online?
Oh, yes, that's the other one. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I file stuff like that away in my mental filing cabinet of a years old game that has been out forever. The stuff, it would be very meaningful to the people who still play it, but for forward-looking games coverage of new releases, like you kind of...
I need to jump in there and play it to have it gain some kind of purchase in my brain, because right now it just goes in and then right out because it's not a thing I track, It's like I just don't follow it.
I think I messed with it a little bit at launch and not since then. I think they've overhauled it pretty significantly since then.
Oh, like an MMO. So that's the Microsoft stuff. Again, if you're listening to this, 2 things. One, obviously, if you're affected by the layoffs, whether in Microsoft or around the world, hopefully you're doing all right, and hopefully you find some relief or support or whatever you need moving forward. The other thing is you probably know more than we do about the kind of near future of Microsoft because of the upcoming Microsoft Bethesda showcase thing they're showing. They said they're going to do a separate one for Starfield, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Like its own thing.
Let's pivot over to Sony and Sony's PlayStation VR2. A lot of news coming out of that. Well, some news coming out of that during CES.
Some news.
Yeah, man, that thing's coming out soon. Jeez. Really snuck up on me. February 22nd.
I mean, February snuck up on me.
Last time we talked about PSVR, that was like, that's like a year away. That's 6 months away. That's 4 months away.
Do you think it'll be $800? $200?
Now it's like 3 weeks away.
Yep.
Yeah, the headline of this PlayStation blog post is maybe a little slight side eye here.
Mm-hmm.
Launch lineup revealed, and then you drill down, and it's more like launch window lineup.
Sure.
Which I'll give them credit. As loose as the phrase launch window has been over the years, they at least kind of define it here as basically within the first month.
Okay, that's
a pretty tight window.
But that's a reasonable. That is absolutely a reasonable.
I would have given him 3 months. Honestly.
This is going back 6+ years at this point. I think they used the phrase launch window for the first PSVR, and then some of the games that were supposedly in the launch window took like years to come out.
Let's hope that's not the case here.
So thank you for their at least, and they don't put dates on all of these necessarily, but they revealed a number of new games coming to PSVR 2, but almost all of them are previously released games. Before Your Eyes, Kayak VR, Mirage, Pavlov, Song in the Smoke, but the rekindled edition. Synth Riders Remastered, Thumper.
Yep. Can't do a VR launch without Thumper. That is important.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Speaking of which, Resident Infinite and Tetris Effect. Creed, Rise to Glory. Like I said, most of these games have been out on other VR headsets and the PSVR 1 in a lot of cases.
And I think they intimated at some point that like Beat Saber is coming, just not in that first wave, right?
Yeah, I believe it is getting an update too.
Yeah.
There are a handful of games on here. Like, they didn't spell it out in this blog post. You'd have to kind of track stuff down. I like the last Clockwinder, which is a first-person puzzle game. Of course, it's first-person because it's VR.
VR.
I don't know if What the Bat is new or not. It's from the What the Golf developer.
Okay.
I'm just checking here. What the Bat came out on Steam in November.
Okay.
So, it's mostly games you've heard of. NFL Pro Era, I'm not entirely sure if that's a new game or not. But the screenshot of a football Pip-Boy on the field is really messing with me.
Well, so here's the thing, is that they're riffing on a thing that exists in NFL football, which is that quarterbacks tend to have this arm brace on that like lists a bunch of different plays. It is not a screen. It is a plastic laminated paper thing that they can look at. But
I did not know about that. So like a football van brace is what you're saying.
Yes, it is a football van brace. It razzes you in a charming British accent whenever you get sacked.
Do we know what the Dark Pictures switchback is at this point?
They talked about it a little bit. I believe it's very much in the vein of that Until Dawn PSVR game.
Okay, all right.
Which was a literal
Funhouse,
like a literal you're in a cart, like roller coaster shooting gallery ish kind of thing.
There's stuff in here I'm gonna check out for sure.
Just real quick for the record, NFL Pro Era did come out in September on Oculus and possibly also Steam. Most of these games are previously released on other VR platforms.
Some of these things I want to know, like Moss 1 and 2, will I be able to like just get a free update for those for PSVR 2, or is that a collection for PSVR 2?
It looks like it's two separate games here, according to this infographic. I mean, that'll be up to each developer, just like it is with the PS4 to PS5 stuff, whether they offer a free upgrade or not, or a paid one. I think I'd mentioned recently I went and bought the $12 Control upgrade to PS5 at some point in the last month or two, just because it was sitting there taunting me.
Mm-hmm.
Like occasionally there might be a nominal fee for some of this stuff, but it's. I could throw out some other stuff on. I mean, there's Gran Turismo 7 VR update on here, the Resident Evil Village stuff, Pistol Whip, Moss, as you mentioned.
No Man's Sky, because of course.
Yeah, No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky. Did I know about this? And what the fuck is Fantavision 2020X?
Do you like fireworks?
Well, I do. I do.
Then it's for you.
Oh my god, this just got announced right before the holidays, like right before the holidays. What? All right, I'm in.
All right, he's all in.
You son of a bitch, I'm in.
I officially now must have a PlayStation VR 2. I don't know. I don't know about you guys. Like, on some level, Fantavision will always represent the next generation of video games to me. Because I think it was maybe the first thing I ever saw on a friend's import PlayStation 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, holy shit, look at those particles, look at those fireworks. It's like the future is here. I need to, fuck man, I can't believe they're making a new Fantavision in VR.
Hell yeah.
I think I'm probably gonna get a PlayStation VR 2.
I will at some point.
It's shaping up. Yeah, I'm still looking at this list here. There's like that Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy's Edge and Vacation Simulator. And a lot of stuff you've heard of in VR from other platforms. There's also that Horizon Call of the Mountain it seems like it's kind of the flagship, like new from the ground up exclusive here. But like a lot of the character this headset is taking on so far for me is it's a very nicely made, like very high tech, like very solid specs VR headset that will let you catch up on a lot of VR stuff you may have missed.
Yes, like like a VR anthology.
And they're absolutely, like I want to say RE Village VR support is exclusive. I don't think that's coming to PC.
That it is.
7 VR never came to PC. So RE7 VR remained exclusive to PlayStation, I believe. But Like, there will be exclusives. Like, Sony put a lot of development support against the first PSVR, right? With your Astrobots and so forth. Like, they put out a good amount of like quality exclusive stuff. Like, I'm sure that is coming.
Yeah.
But at launch, it very much seems like, hey, if you don't have any VR headset, or yours is like very old and not great or something, it's like this is a big upgrade. It's like a very nice headset, but not a ton of super unique stuff off the bat.
Yeah, yes. I hope more this means more people can port what they have made in VR to the PlayStation 5. I don't necessarily need Sony to fund more stuff, but if it's a way for me to keep a slightly up to date or a little behind in VR, that's okay for me. Like I never got the PC set up, and this is I do want them to fund a bunch of unique stuff, because I feel like VR development is just kind of like flat, largely. Like Oculus is kind of the only big company still throwing, Meta, whatever you want to call it.
Well, I mean, there's been a lot of scuttlebutt about like developers running into like significant issues getting additional funding to make VR projects. Like, some of that money seems to be drying up. Yeah,
there was definitely a gold rush 5 years ago or something of VR projects getting funded that's probably not happening anymore. But like Astrobot is still one of one of the coolest things I've played in VR. Yeah,
and I really wish they had, for this, put out a similar thing that had asynchronous, or whatever you want to call it. One person wears the headset and other people can play on the screen, because I did do that a lot with my kids and stuff. And as a household that shares the screen a lot, having one person be in the VR and nobody else to participate doesn't help. It basically means it's one person. We do a lot of just like sitting and watching somebody play.
Yeah,
it's kind of
yeah. VR is inherently a pretty isolating experience.
But they did a pretty good job with the Playroom stuff to make games that let you play on the screen and in the VR in fun ways. Is PlayStation VR like available for pre-order places now? Are they still doing lottery stuff?
I believe they were going to do the similar thing to the PlayStation Direct, right? The same thing as the PS5. It looks like you can pre-order it now. I'm sure some of that will just be demand dependent, right? Like, they kind of had to do the PS5 in waves just because the demand was outstripping supply so much.
Okay. So you can get it from there directly from Sony?
Looks like you can. Okay, I have just added a pre-ordered cart.
Okay.
So it seems like you can probably just lock one in.
Well, I'll go get my Sony credit card points and cash them in for my PlayStation VR.
I've got a bunch that I never use. I should probably.
All right, that's the Sony stuff. That's the Microsoft stuff. Rolling down here. Oh, last week we talked about the allegations and charges surrounding Justin Roiland from Rick and Morty fame, and also from High on Life and Squanch Games. It seems like Squanch Games and Roiland have separated as of January 16th, 2023.
It's not just them. Adult Swim also has cut all ties. It sounds like it was a total buyout of his whatever contract they had with him.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I've seen some stuff going around about him possibly losing his Fox development deal. So it kind of seems like everyone pulled the plug at once.
And it is not. There's no conviction. He is still going to trial,
it sounds like he is going to go to trial. Like, there are felony charges, and I think the thing that maybe caused, let's just say, the legal teams of these various corporations to say we have to cut ties is, I'm guessing it's probably all these charges combined with all the people coming out and saying things like, yeah, Justin Roiland was sending me weird DMs when I was 17, that kind of stuff.
Oh, weird. Okay, I haven't followed it that closely.
Yeah.
Again, none of that stuff is 100% confirmed, but there has been a lot of that stuff floating up since these charges became public.
Yeah, and you see, of course, especially when they announced he was being removed from Rick and Morty. Did we even say what video game tie-in here is? I don't think we even said it.
He said Squanch Games, but Squanch Games is the studio that he co-founded.
Yeah. He has resigned. Actually, the Squanch Games received Justin Roiland's resignation on January 16th is the wording of this thing, which sounds kind of weird because isn't it his studio?
Well, he was the creative director and he did found it, it's
just the wording is just a little goofy. Like, he wasn't just an employee.
Yeah.
But anyway, Especially with the Adult Swim stuff, you just see a bunch of people just being like, "Oh, I guess it's guilty until proven innocent in this country" stuff. But it's like, man, like the criminal, like felony criminal charges is not nothing.
It's
like,
not nothing.
Like they're not going to bring charges like that without some pretty significant amount of evidence, and even in some hypothetical scenario where he may be acquitted, like that doesn't matter for stuff like this because he has all like this even being the case now has already reflected on Adult Swim and the show and et cetera, like
yeah.
of course they're going to cut ties here.
And I think especially, I mean, again, none of this stuff is 100% confirmed, but I have seen people saying that like some reporters were trying to get these, like the original charges, like reported on as far back as like when they first came around and were getting, like stories were getting killed various places. So, I mean, Warner Brothers, who owns Adult Swim, had a lot of money tied up in Rick and Morty and still does, which is why their Notes app statement of Rick and Morty will continue is not surprising, if also confusing. Not to say that they could not recast those characters, but I'm just saying, similar to, let's just say, certain alien parasites in a certain Star Trek episode, there's a lot of tendrils in there you got to pull out to do that.
Would they recast?
I don't know. I mean, considering how much money they have put into that show, and they have writing on it, I'm not surprised they're gonna try.
Yeah, they have to. I mean, he was both of those voices.
I know, but like,
I think they flat out said they are, but I mean, that's the only way they can keep the show going.
Could they just get an AI or something at that point? Like, I don't know. I don't know what you'd be doing there.
I bet, hey, it worked for Ren and Stimpy, right?
Well,
like,
sort of.
Just bring Billy West out of retirement. Yeah, I know. But like,
all right.
I think it'll be. I think they can probably recast those voices fine. I have zero like familiarity with Rick and Morty. I guess has not even been involved creatively beyond doing voices for years.
He's not like the lead writer on that show or anything. They have a writing team for that thing, and him and Dan Harmon were the co-creators and showrunners.
The thing I've seen people saying is that Harmon has been the one running all of that stuff for years now, so it's really just a matter of recasting voices and moving on.
It is, but I mean, and look, and this is not me saying that like they shouldn't have done this. They absolutely should have done this, but like those characters and the weird ad-libbing that Roiland did was kind of paramount to that humor and like what that show was going for. So I think that even if you recast actors that sound relatively like the main characters, I think that show is irreparably changed no matter what.
If that's what we're talking about, I would agree with that. Like if we're talking about trying to recreate the same thing with a different person, like that's, I mean, he was basically doing a banter between himself. It's like a weird thing on its face.
I think in the end, what you were talking about here is the slow bleed out of this series and not them just sinking the knife all the way in because they have too much money wrapped up in it not dying yet.
Yeah, I don't know. Like maybe he gets acquitted and something weird happens. It's a weird world we live in. And
yeah, it's not like people who have gotten canceled have not just come back. Yeah. Louis C.K. won a Grammy like within the last couple of years. So yes.
Yeah. Louis C.K. didn't have felony charges against him though, right?
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he was jerking off in front of people when they didn't want him to.
Yep.
So do with that info what you will.
Yep. Nah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to do too much with it.
But just again, though, like I don't know, man. It just kind of blows my mind. The people going like, "Oh, like they should wait until the trial concludes before doing things like this." It's like the association with an ongoing felony trial.
I mean, is already enough grounds to sever this relationship. I mean, if you want to, like, hey, we're not airing or doing any more work, and the show's not going to go on. Like, that is an avenue. Yeah, hey, we're going to wait to see what happens, and we're going to cancel the show. But they're not going to do that.
Not a chance in hell.
Right. They're not going to stop the show until everything gets sorted out. They're going to keep moving on, and the only way for them to move on is to put distance, right? So
whether they should or not, they will not.
Yeah. All right. This last bit here, coming back around to the Xbox stuff. A greener, more beautiful, less carbon Can I download my stuff only on solar power on the Xbox?
Yes.
Okay,
they're trying to take your Xbox.
Oh, they are. Oh no.
No, they're just trying to turn it off.
I don't even want to talk about this story in the context of the complete dipshit right-wing culture war bullshit about it. I actually think these features are rad and want to talk about the features.
It was funny.
Let's talk about the features.
When I saw you put the story in, I hadn't known much about it, and then my initial gut reaction was like, "Is this another one of those bullshit? We plant a tree for every Xbox we sell?" But it's not that, which is kind of refreshing.
No, I'm interested in this because, as I've said before, like the ongoing like PC-ification of the customization on the Xbox is awesome to me. Like, let people use the thing the way they want to, and give them a bunch of extra options. You could dim or turn off the power light on the Xbox now. You can set time for that to happen. Like, you literally define the hours of night mode and customize how the lights on the controller and the console work and stuff. Like, that's cool as hell.
Yeah.
To be able to do things like that. This is more of that.
Yeah, it's like their PR messaging of the first carbon-aware console is maybe a little...
Oh, there's specific grounds to support that. Like, this is something I was not even really familiar with, but like, well, okay, there's like 3 things going on here.
Okay, run it down.
I didn't realize this was the case, but I guess the way it has worked previously is that if you leave the Xbox in sleep, it'll just pick like a random time overnight to check for updates and stuff. And now you can set... They basically are putting active hours in here the way that Windows has, where you can tell like Windows like, hey, between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. are my active hours. Don't try to update this damn thing because I'm doing work on it. This is kind of like that, where except this is the part I didn't realize was possible. When your console is plugged in, connected to the internet, and regional carbon intensity data is available, those are the preconditions where it will then schedule its updates around the time that like demand on the grid is the lowest in your area, meaning that more of the energy being supplied at the time is probably coming from renewables rather than fossil fuels. Like the idea that it can tie into some like real time, usage pattern geolocated to your Xbox is like kind of awesome.
I think that's a very smart move
from a cool systems integration perspective. Like, it's cool that kind of power data is out there and can be used for something like this. You could also set these active hours around. I don't know have you guys gotten moved to time of use plans? They sure did do that at PG&E here.
I haven't gotten anything as far as that is concerned, but I wouldn't be surprised if we got something along those lines in the near future.
They let you opt out of it on PG&E here, but by default, unless you opted out, they moved everybody to a thing where power costs different amounts at different times of day. So like 4 to 9 p.m. is the most expensive time to use electricity here now, so you can like schedule update hours around stuff like that if you want as well. It's neat. It's like a cool thing.
I think these are really good things. I mean, it is to me mentally just a little bit offset by the fact that every one of these consoles are just like giant power hogs, no matter what, just by design of what these consoles are being tasked to do. But adding these kinds of features, bare minimum, I think is the right move. It at least gives you some flexibility in terms of what your power usage is. I think talking about things like it's a carbon aware is a messaging that does kind of just make my eyes roll back in my head. Not because of what it signifies, but it feels like it has all the sanded off edges of like very corporate messaging of look at how carbon aware our console is.
Yeah,
fair.
Or carbon neutral or carbon offsets, and it's just been overdone and proven to
the features
be,
are welcome. It's the messaging that sometimes just gets to me a little bit.
Yeah, so another thing they're doing is they like last year, I think it was last year sometime, if not the year before, they made it so that you can put the thing to sleep or you can put it to off essentially, and they made it so that even in the off mode that's like 20x less power usage than the sleep mode, it'll still wake itself up and do updates. But that was all opt-in, so they are actually now with this update they're doing a one-time move of every Xbox that gets updated to the super low power mode. And so you're going to have to, if you want your thing to be in sleep, which uses like, I think it uses like 15 watts in sleep or something, which is not nothing. You have to go back in and turn that on now. So like, sure, are you argue that they're taking away your sleep from you and making you go spend 5 seconds turning it back on if you want Ted Cruz.
I didn't even know that was a thing until you said it. That's like, fuck that shit. Like, that's just, you're right. That is just culture wars nonsense that nobody should be listening to.
Yeah, it's stupid. I shouldn't even be paying lip service to that bullshit, but like it's pretty meaningful. It's like half a watt in the super standby mode versus like 15 in sleep.
Yeah.
But they are moving every Xbox console to the low power mode and are going to make people go.
I have never had my Xbox in sleep mode. That is the one I always just turn off because the thing that lets you save your game space or whatever, like that always just seems to work fine even when I turn it all the way off. So there's not much reason in my mind to keep it in sleep mode.
Right, because it's like a save state versus like a suspend.
Yeah. Like the one thing that gets to me with I stopped using sleep too when they rolled that stuff out. Like you can't start a very large download and then turn it off into sleep and let it keep going. It'll just turn itself off. Like you have to go enable sleep mode again. But then like I've done that to let a download finish and then forgotten about it for a week until I turned it back on and was like, oh, I guess it's been asleep this whole time. But with this active hours stuff, you could even set it up so it'll like turn itself off at
it's neat
1 a.m. or whatever.
It feels like a good use of an always connected console. Like if it's going to pull that data and it's going to smartly manage itself, intelligently manage its power usage to save both the environment and you money. So it's
that's why I did it, because I've become very conscious of all the electricity use around here. Mm-hmm. Working at home makes you really eyeball your power bill.
Yeah, so like
and think like, maybe I should be saving more here because there's no large corporation paying for my work power usage anymore. And
on its face, it's like maybe not a big deal, but if you were to amplify or multiply that by all the devices in your house, if they could cumulatively do this, it could make a difference. I've got tons of computers here that are in various states of sleep turned off or background. Even my TV, it's like the whole everything wants to be in a low power state or be doing something. Yeah. All right, Sony, now do it so that this works, but also just fix it so it actually updates games in the background when it's supposed to be off or sleeping. Because too many times I will turn on my PlayStation 5 and it'll be like, dude, what happened?
It seems like it might have gotten a little better. Definitely at launch of the PS5, I was just like, what is the update cadence of this thing? When is it actually checking for patches when it's asleep? Because every time I turn it on, it finds patches and starts downloading them. It's like, shouldn't you be checking for this?
I don't know.
A little more often?
Yes, please.
I have one little bit of news update here.
Okay, news update.
That Developer Direct has started, and in the very first splash screen, they're like, Tango Gameworks is on here with a redacted thing. So I think that is happening.
All right.
Okay. Breaking news.
They're on Mojang right now, so it'll probably be a while before we get to them. But that game is at least being announced, it seems like.
Okay, well, yeah, by the time you hear this, that'll be out there, so...
Shout out to... What was that user's name?
I didn't have a source for that one.
Okay, all right.
Oh, wait, I may have actually found it. No, I don't. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It was Bathrobe Spartan was the leaker for the Halo 343 stuff, if that's what you're asking about.
Well, let's just shout out to them anyway, too. Why not?
Why not? All right. That's going to wrap up the news. And let me just mention, though I think we're not going to do emails today, but let me just mention the email address here. podcast@nextlander.com. podcast@nextlander.com. So we did get that email up at the top, so... we have a
we did get
email.
One in.
Yes, I've got to run out pretty quickly here after the podcast, so we will save emails for another time. podcast@nextlander.com. That's going to wrap it up for this week's show. The games are coming. They're coming fast.
Dude, I can't wait.
Games are coming.
Can't wait to play Dead Space.
Dead Space this Friday. We got the Hitman Freelancer mode this Friday. We're going to check some of that out on our grab bag going on Friday. We were going to check out Forspoken, but maybe we'll do a last minute substitution here, just play more Hitman or something. We'll see how it wraps up on the or wraps in.
We'll see what the appetite is for more Forspoken.
Come Friday, that's our grab bag. That'll be at 1 p.m. Eastern on Friday, and then also we are having a Patron's Choice stream on Thursday. The poll is up. Do we have live polling going? Can we check in? See what is going on?
Marauders, pretty strong lead.
Okay, with still plenty of time left, but it could be a Marauders.
I really thought that VHS stuff would run away with it.
But you know what? Here's the thing. We can just put that on for another month. That's an anytime.
That's an anytime. That's anytime. That's the fun thing about those polls is we're all winners.
Dude, wait, Y2K is coming. I need Leonard Nimoy to tell me now what to do to get ready.
Just throw your computer in a river.
I will show you that video sometime down the road. I promise.
You can go vote. If you're listening to this, you can go vote. That poll is still up. If you're listening to this on Thursday, that poll is not up anymore. Poll is done. And on Monday, we did what? What did we do on Monday?
Subnautica.
That's right.
Below Zero.
We were Subnautica-ing Below Zero.
Below Zero is how much memory we all have left collectively for what we did this week.
We got the Ramblecast. We have the Watchcast. We just recorded our final season episodes for Star Trek, the original series. Those will go on the Patreon feed starting next week. So if you want to hear it, I think it was almost a 2-hour one, right?
It was a 2-hour one.
Yeah, of our wrap-up of Star Trek, the original series. You can go check that out over on the Patreon. And if you didn't know, the Patreon is where you can go to support us. That is patreon.com/Nextlander. You can find a bunch of stuff there, like we just said, the Ramblecast, the Never Been a Better podcast, all the goodies there. You can go vote on that poll that is up now. Find a tier. That's right. For you over on patreon.com/Nextlander. There is one tier, though, that gets their names read on this here show. That's the Mysterious Benefactor tier. Alex Navarro, would you do the honors of reading the names of our Mysterious Benefactors for this week?
For you.
Thank you.
For you, I will do this.
Thank you.
Our Mysterious Benefactors for this week are RRE, John Richardson, Vornak, Kelly F., James Smith, Brian Lucier, Skywarp, John Hubbard, Sean Miller, Brad's Mid-Size Voodoo. I might have added an extra do. Evan Cook, Mark Wilhelm, JM, Jerry Lee, Gary Pejsky, Robert Fisher, John McInnes, hashtag Bunny, where do I put income from crimes on my 1099? Peter Reardon, Thomas Lynn, Jad Rita, Statics, Andrew Jackson, Razgriz2, Brian Murphy, Trevor and Adrian R., Kevin Villado, Randy Duax, Andrew Tiepkin, Alex Wu, It Me JP, Matt Clements Jr., Edward Chick, Andrew Slosky, Steve Lynn, Matthew Herrig, David Campos, and Tyler Trees.
Those are the Mysterious Benefactors for this week, and a big thank you to all of them. And a big thank you to all of our patron supporters, everyone who's watched us over on Twitch and on YouTube, supports us, listens to this here podcast, tells their friends about us, gets out there, spreads the good word of Nextlander. We appreciate it. Couldn't be here without you. It's the truth. I'm not getting it tattooed, but it is the truth.
True. It is true.
It is true. Again, one more time here. If you're a part of a layoff or around the layoffs, best of luck to you out there. I know those words probably don't mean too much, but hey, thoughts go out to you. It's tough times. Seems like it's tough times out there.
Not great.
Not great. That's going to do it for this show. Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for spending your time with us, no matter what you're doing. Making the choice to spend it here with Nextlander. We appreciate it. Thank you, Alex Navarro.
Thank you.
That's the pause. The pause means respond. That's thank you, Brad Shoemaker.
It's always the question, is he going to pause for me to respond, or should I just not say anything so he can keep his cadence and send the show off cleanly?
This is it. This is how got to keep everybody on their toes.
I usually lean toward the latter, but thank you.
Sorry, I was looking at Forza cars. That's why I paused.
Oh, you're in your car world.
I wanted to see what the cars looked like, and guess what? They look like cars.
They're shiny. I bet they're shiny.
Breaking news!
Oh, more breaking news. The cars are shiny.
They got cars.
Wait, they're putting cars in this one?
Yeah.
Wow.
Lightning McQueen, baby, he's in there.
Wait.
No, I'm joking. I'm fucking with you.
Dude, they did Lego. They already did Lego. I would believe anything at this point.
I would have believed it too. It took me a second to ask, and then I said, he's probably joking. That's going to do it. We'll be back next week with probably, I'm going to assume, some opinions on Dead Space. So you want to check that out next week. Thanks for listening. We'll be back soon.